Hey there, and welcome on back. As always, I'm Carl with Targets of Attitude, Absent Smiles, and all things sharp. Today, going to continue with the Bug Out 101. Of course, talk about probably something a lot of people don't think about. Fire. What are you going to do when you're out there? It gets cold sometime, it gets wet. Are you prepared to build a fire? Do you have what you need in your Bug Out kit to do so? Let's take a look, shall we? As I say, today we're going to be talking about fire. For that, a little bit of syllabus work, so to speak. If you're new to the channel, welcome. This series is all about how to put together your own bug out kit in case of emergency and you need to get the hell out of Dodge. Say a hurricane's coming down on you and you're on the coast. Or we get some wildfires like we had up in North Carolina, entirely too close to me a couple of years ago, and they have out in California every year. For those of you who have been with us, I hope you're enjoying this series. Just got one question for you. Have you subscribed yet? You haven't? Why? It's easy, man. You just hit that little button right down there, just like I keep telling you. Then you hit that bell next to it. That way you get notified every time I put up a new video. Win-win situation. Win for you because you get to see all the neat new videos I do. Win for me because the more subscribers I have, the easier it is for me to get these neat new things. But on with class today. Now, we've already assumed that you understand why you might need an emergency kit. And we've covered some of the more important things. We've covered water. We've covered first aid. We've covered clothing. We've covered food. But what happens if you're out there and it starts raining? And what do? You're wet, you're cold, you need something to help warm you up. What better than a fire? You need something to warm up some water or cook your food on. You need a fire. But if it's raining like it is today, I don't know if you can hear it, trying to find some tinder and the other things you need to build a fire going to be kind of rough. And even if it's dry, how do you start the fire in the first place? If you're a smoker, then that's fairly easy. You've probably got at least one of these somewhere around you. And if you're not a smoker, well, you know what? These things are fairly cheap. They're plastic. They last a good long time. You just, quick, easy way to start a fire every time. Only problem, they do run out of fuel, and they do break. And even if it's sitting in your backpack, never being used, it's propane. The fuel can leak out over time. Nothing you can do about that. That's just the way life is. So, best thing to have, but not always useful. So what else can you use? Well, classic from way back when, waterproof matches in a plastic case. I don't care how wet and nasty it is, these things will still light. You can drop them in a lake and you can still get them to light. Beautiful. Especially if it's in the case, which, as you can see, this one has a nice gasket. Definitely going to keep everything nice and neat. Some of the other things you consider. This is a flint striker. It's got a rod. It's actually not flint, I don't think. I think it's a ferro rod. But it's got a ferro rod or flint in there, and it's got a piece of steel. You can strike sparks all day with this thing. Beautiful. Maybe you want to go. Now, some knives come with ferro rods on them. You can always get a fire kit like this one. This one has a ferro rod in it as well, I think. Let's take a quick look, shall we? Other nice thing about this is, as I say, glass case, so it's waterproof. Just very hard to get it open because everything is packed so tightly in there. But it does have a ferro rod right there, as you can see. Well, that's why it wouldn't open. The latch kept catching. Okay, yeah, we'll fight that later. But it's got the ferro rod, and it's got what might be even more important. It's got kindling in here. Well, not real kindling, but it's got stuff that's designed to catch fire easily. And as I say, it's in a waterproof case complete with a very nice seal. As you can see, the seal wasn't letting me open it the way I wanted to. Definitely a little annoying. I see what was happening. There we go. So, yeah. Take one of these and you can strike your sparks on that. Going to have a nice fire in no time. Very sweet. And it's got a lanyard, and it's got a hook so you can put it on the outside of your pack. It's bright orange so it's easily seen. You put it on top of your pack. You can clip it to your belt. Just all in all easy to get to. And that tinder is a good point. As I said, if it's raining like it is here today, finding dry tinder to start your fire with is going to be a pain. So in addition to a way to start the fire, you're going to need something to catch fire. Yeah, you can quite often find twigs on trees, and if it's heavy enough that the rain hasn't gotten all the way into the center of the tree, yeah, but you have to count on being able to find dead twigs. And they don't stay on the trees all that long, all the time. And as I say, if it's really raining, probably not all that dry either. So what else can you use? Well, Seoul and USA or UST definitely make a lot of things. These things, basically all they are is a bit of cotton wool soaked in a petroleum jelly type thing. They're cheap, easy to find. There's a bunch of them in here, I think. Let's see here. How many does it say it has in here? It's also got a ferro rod. It's got about 20 of those little things in there. Quite handy. You can also buy something like this. Again, UST, but other companies have it. Fire sticks. Only reason I like these is that they're small enough to fit in the pack easily. But you go to the grocery store and find something almost identical to this, or to the hardware store where you get your charcoal. Same area. With fire starter sticks. The only problem with the ones from the grocery stores and the hardware stores is half the time they're about yay big, kind of hard to fit in your pack, whereas this is nice and small and fits in easily. Another thing you can do, fuel cubes. These don't expire very easily. They last for a good long time. They're actually designed for one of those camp stoves I told you about last week. But again, you pop one or two out. They light easily. They burn hot enough to boil water, so you know it's going to get hot enough to start the fire if you get enough dry stuff around it. Quick, easy. Personally, I put all of this in a plastic bag so that they don't get wet. You don't have to, but I would recommend it. Of course, there's other ways to start fires. There's the rubbing two sticks together method. It's never worked for me. Sorry. Maybe you can get it to work. I've never gotten it to work. Matter of fact, the only person I ever know who did, well, this guy was. Okay, you've seen various martial arts movies where the hero snatches a coin out of someone else's hands. The guy I saw start a fire with two sticks was easily that fast. I'm not. I don't think most of you are either. So, yeah, some people make it work. I've never had. Here's the bow method where you've got looks for all the world like a miniature bow for a bow and arrow set. You wrap the cord in it once around your main stick. You put that main stick down on a piece of wood. Doesn't have to be any bigger than this. Matter of fact, it can be smaller. And then you use the bow like you're bowing a bass fiddle or something. Just twirl that stick. That actually works. But again, it's something you'd want to practice and get good at before you need it. If you've never done it before, I really wouldn't count on it. It works, but it's not as easy as it looks, believe me. Of course, you could always try to find an old-fashioned piece of flint. It's a natural occurring rock, but it's not everywhere, and you definitely have to be able to identify it before you can break off a piece to use. So you almost have to be a geologist. Now I know what flint looks like and feels like. I'm not going to try to harvest it in the real world. Sorry. And as for some other things to consider, for instance, instead of buying these little things, all they are is cotton wool dripped in a petroleum substance. If you really, really wanted to, you could make your own by taking cotton balls. Just make sure they're all natural, not artificial or anything. And dip it in a jar of petroleum jelly to get them slightly damp. Toss them in a plastic bag so they don't dry out or get wet if you're caught in the rain. That works great. Got an old cotton t-shirt or pants or even underwear that, as long as it's all cotton, that you're about to throw out, cut it up into strips, coat it with that petroleum jelly, not too much, just enough. You got the method of starting a fire right there. Easy peasy. Of course, if you wanted to, you could always just go out and get a bunch of twigs out of your yard while it's still nice and dry and put them in a waterproof container of some sort. That would be just as effective as these fire sticks, and you don't have to pay for them. Just sometimes they're a little hard to fit in your bag. So, other thing you need to consider is, once you start the fire, once you have stuff to start the fire, where are you going to build it? I mean, let's face it, those wildfires that ravaged North Carolina and Tennessee a couple of years ago, they started from a campfire. Someone who didn't know what they were doing. So, you have to make sure you get it right. If you're in your vehicle, you could throw in one of these portable fire pits, or a small grill. that would work. It would keep everything right there so that you don't have any problems with it spreading too much. But if you're on foot, that's a little difficult to bring with you. So, what I recommend, a simple circle of stones on bare ground. Take your knife, your emergency shovel, harpooners, your Leatherman, whatever you've got with you. Scrape everything off of a section of ground at least 3 feet wide. Because dirt doesn't burn. But plants, if they get dry enough, will burn. And if you've left plants right next to your fire, they're going to get dry enough to burn. And if it's already dry out there, yeah, wildfire waiting to happen. After you've got the earth scraped bare, either dig a small, shallow pit, or if you've got rocks around that you can use, circle it with some rocks. Just be careful. If you're in an area that has a lot of sandstone, find out what sandstone is and how to identify it, because I guarantee you don't want to have your fire pit built out of sandstone. This stuff will explode. It's got water in it. I mean, sandstone is formed by sand being compressed over millions of years until it forms a rock. But it still has moisture in it. And depending on how much moisture, if it gets hot enough, it's either going to crack and fall apart, or, and this doesn't happen often, but does happen every now and again, a piece of it will explode. Not a very big explosion, not a very powerful one, but still enough to send shards of stone flying a couple feet. Do you want your fire pit to explode on you while you're sitting around trying to get warm? I sure don't. So yeah, learn how to identify sandstone. Make sure you don't use that. I've heard people talk about using a wet log. And they say if it's partially decomposed, it won't catch fire. Well, nah, sorry. Maybe if your fire's only for a wee bit and you put it out with lots of water afterwards. But if it's still solid enough to be holding together and not falling apart the minute you touch it, then there's enough wood there to dry out and catch fire. Bad thing. Bad thing. Other thing you should probably learn to do is different ways of building a fire. Now, I might do a video on that later on. There's a lot of different ways. Simplest way is to put your tinder in the center, and then take your dry wood and stack it like you were building a log cabin around the outside. If you ever used to play with Lincoln logs or saw someone playing with them, exactly the same thing. Since you don't have notches cut in it, it's not going to form a solid wall. You don't want a solid wall. You want air to be able to get into the tinder and to fan the fire up. That's the easiest fire to build. And as I say, later on I might just do another video on a day when it's not raining, show you some of the different ways you can build a fire and different things you can look for and how to do it. But for today, I think we hit the highlights well enough. There's lots of things out there you can also think of. You can even use a magnifying glass, believe it or not. It really does work. The only problem is if it's raining, you might not have the sun you need to do that method. But look around. Talk to your friends. If you've got an old Boy Scout manual, go ahead and look through that. That's got all sorts of neat tricks in there. But in the meantime, I'll let you get on with it. I'm sure you can find some things. If you've got any methods that you want to suggest to me, go ahead and put them in the comments down below. Love to hear them. In the meantime, you take care. Talk to you later. I'm going to put a link up here in the corner here to some of my other videos. And a link down here for, who knows, it's a video you might enjoy. Hope you check it out. Until next time, take care. Remember, it may be ability that decides what you can do. Maybe motivation that decides what you will do. It's attitude that decides how well you do it. So if you're going to do anything, no matter how major or how minor, do it with attitude. See you now. Bye.